See Beneath Your Beautiful podcast is raw and intimate, sometimes funny, and always entertaining. With new episodes every Saturday, Hara explores our loves, fears, and hopes with a delicious combination of depth and lightness.
I am Carolyn Markel Hammond, and I am the founder and CEO of an organization called Safe in Harm's Way. Safe in Harm's Way is an online platform where we work really hard to build community and offer the resources that people who are navigating toxicity and abusive situations can find online, so that in the comfort of their own home, or when they are safe and randomly standing in the grocery store, or whether they're in their car waiting for kids to get picked up, they have an element of safety online that allows them to pursue resources. We also have them that they can exit out, and then it erases everything, so no one will track what they've been looking at.
Oh, that's cool.
We have an online community, and we're international. I just finished doing some work in Italy. We've done work in South Africa, in Canada, in Costa Rica, and the United Kingdom, and of course, all across the United States.
Would you mind telling me your personal story? How this came about?
Sure. I escaped from my abusive situation March of 2016, about 4 weeks before I was set to marry the person who was abusing me.
Oh.
The wedding was paid for, everything was bought. I had my dress and the diamond in hand. And 4 weeks prior to the date, I escaped. And when I start to talk about what happened, there's a look that comes over people's face. It's the same look. And it's a mix of fear and sadness and concern and worry. And they say, "This happened to you?" I say, "Yes, this happened to me."
Because you're a professional and successful. Is that why?
Yep. Abusers can just as easily occupy a corner office and wear a suit every day.
Yeah.
The people they are abusing can have 2 master's degrees and be number 1 in their country and their sales organization and still be receiving the end of that abuse.
Mm-hmm.
So the decision was for me, when I escaped, to decide slowly over time, because healing from that took a lot of time, to make choices that there would never be another person who experienced what I did and not have the tools or the awareness that even what they were living was abuse, so that they could find the right resources to heal. It'd be ideal if people could escape, but we know that they can't sometimes. We know that there's mitigating circumstances, but at least they can fuel themselves so that when the day comes that they can find a way to escape, they've already put a lot of things in place for their healing. I made the decision one evening when I discovered the secret life he was living. And I have to be honest, up until that point, I would not have left.
Mm-hmm.
When you talk to survivors, they will say, "I didn't realize I was being abused."
Mm-hmm.
And people are like, "Well, what do you mean you didn't realize?" Well, because when you are empathetic and when you're kind and when you're genuine and you believe that the person who's looking in your eyes and claims to love you, and then that person hurts you and blames you for it, you start to believe you're at fault.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you're a great communicator in the rest of the world, and even if you're successful, when you are slowly dismantled from the inside out, you just keep thinking, if I work harder, if I find the right words, if I show him by example, then he'll stop it. And life will return to what it was before. Because abuse never starts out as abuse. It starts out as poetry and roses and "I love you" and "oh my gosh, my life has been miserable without you, and now you're the person who's going to save me, and I love you so much." It starts out as that, and slowly over time morphs to this dismantling of you. And the person living it is just trying their hardest to A, get back to what it was in the beginning, and B, fix themselves to fix the other person. once I did leave, and I immediately got therapy, and they handed me the wheel of power and control. It talks about emotional and verbal and physical and financial. And they handed that to me, and there's about 12 spokes to the wheel. And I thought, this piece of paper has been my life for almost 8 years. And I couldn't have labeled it other than I knew that oftentimes in my relationship, I was sad. Oftentimes I would cry in the car before I went in the house. I was often worried about how he was going to react to people, to places, to experiences. I was often wondering if he lied to me. Always had an explanation. Always turned out to be my fault that I was too sensitive. But I wondered if he was lying to me. Couldn't prove it, but wondered. Financial, the jobs that he didn't want me to take because I would have started earning more money than he did. And always done with, oh, sweet pea, if that means you'd have to be away from me more, I don't want to be away from you. And besides, I make so much money, you don't have to worry about making more money. Why would you ever worry about that? I'm going to take care of you. That's how it sounds. The reality is he was hiding money from me in bank accounts I didn't know about. And he was encouraging me not to take jobs because how dare I make more money than he did. When those realizations happened, that was after I left. That's after I got therapy. That was after I could start to label the emotions of what was happening in my world. What happened in my relationship is that we were climbing into bed one evening on a Tuesday, and he said, Sweet Pea, I think I've done something that's going to make you mad. And I said, well, what could you have done? And he said, well, I've been corresponding online with another couple, and I gave them your picture, and I kind of started to tell them that you would be interested in having sex with them. And I said, oh, no, I'm not mad, love. I'm livid.
Yeah.
Get the hell out of my house. And you know what I got? Oh, I knew you'd be upset. Really? You knew I'd be upset, but you did it anyway?
Yeah.
I knew you wouldn't participate, but you did it anyway? How dare you? If you knew these things, why were you doing this without my knowledge and without my consent? And you gave them my picture? And you told them where we lived? And you told them what I did for a living?
Yeah.
You did all that? See, I knew it, Carolyn. I knew you were going to be mad. I knew this was going to start a whole fight. I don't even know why I told you. You know what? I'll cancel it. I'm going to leave my computer open. You can look at it anytime you want. I'll cancel it right now. He gets online and he does whatever that he's doing online. I'm going to leave it out. You can read it. You can read it if you want. For the first time in almost 8 years, when he fell asleep, I double-checked his story. Because that's what abusers do. They put this little nugget out there that covers their lie. Well, you know what? If you really are doubting me, then I'm not where I'm saying I'm supposed to be. Call my CEO. You know him. You're friends with him. Call him. Ask him if I'm there. Well, why would I do that? Right? And if he's offering it, then surely he must be telling the truth. Because otherwise he knows I am friends with his CEO. He knows I could call. So you don't double check.
Right.
I double checked, and I took his computer about 3:00 in the morning-ish into our kitchen. And what I found on that computer was so egregious that I instantly thought this must have been a horrible spam. And I shut the computer and I went to go back to bed, except I didn't. What I found was a group on Craigslist that was teaching other men how to drug their girlfriends or wives and then have people over to watch them be raped.
Oh my gosh.
And I thought, well, that certainly is like some kind of bad spam, like maybe his computer was hacked. I went to go back to bed and turned around and opened his computer again. And I found not only was he a member of that group, but that for 8 years that we were together, without my knowledge, without my consent, he had been posting my picture online with words in the email that started out and said, my girlfriend has no idea I'm doing this to her. He would, for those 8 years, multiple emails, multiple groups, give out my picture. Because I'm a data-driven geek and a firstborn and slightly obsessive compulsive, I would go match back years and match our credit card receipts to the dates of when he planned these dates. Sure enough, we would correspond with 3 or 4 people, strangers online through Craigslist. He would tell them where we were going to be, and he would tell them to be stationed around the restaurant so they could check me out. To me, he was saying, oh my gosh, I love you so much. You've done so great at work. Get dressed up. Let me take you out to the best dinner I can. It was pretty horrific. So here I am discovering this, and I get sick to my stomach. I have to run to the bathroom to vomit, come back to his computer, and I didn't know what to do because this person uses a Mac. I'm not familiar with a Mac. And I'm very afraid that if I touch anything, he will know that I've found it. And because it's so egregious, I instantly feared for my life.
Yeah.
So I just started taking pictures, screenshots. And then when I started taking more pictures and screenshots and opening random emails, and then remembering and reminding myself to go back and mark it as unopened, and then finding all the affairs he had, men and women, people in our home when I traveled, whenever he traveled. While it seems egregious and out there, it is a common thing. This is a common way to issue abuse. And this is somebody I knew way back. We went to college together. We grew up in the same area. This was someone I reconnected with post both of our divorces. And not that that makes it any better when somebody doesn't have that history. I'm just saying that you can think you know someone. And if that person makes you feel bad in your relationships, they don't deserve to be with you.
Right.
Walk away. No matter how long you've known them, no matter where you knew them from, if you feel sad, worried, pain, lies, fear, it's not a relationship you need to stay in.
Right.
So once I discovered that, it took me about 10 days to 2 weeks to craft my escape plan. And it took me about 6-ish months to implement the escape plan.
Oh, okay. Because you were living together and your finances were mixed up and all that
Our
stuff.
finances were tied. Thank God I didn't marry him. It would have been horrifically worse. We shared bank accounts. We had a house together. I discovered that some things in his financial past were also troublesome. So then I very much worried if I didn't do it correctly, that my children, we did not share any children, that my children would, like their financial aid would have been compromised, their ability to go to college would have been compromised, all these things. So I wanted to make sure that I was very determined and methodical in how I chose to escape.
When you finally told him, did he deny everything?
Yeah, it was just his reputation that was going to be damaged, and he needed to fix it because, didn't I trust him?
Yeah.
I also lied. I mean, I told him I found one instance of him having an affair. I didn't tell him I found everything.
I'm asking because I was living with somebody. I accidentally found out my cell phone bill was large that month, but it turns out because my daughter was using her internet not on Wi-Fi. But that made me look at the bill for the first time. And I saw he was texting one number over and over and over again. And I called the number. And it turns out he had answered a Craigslist ad for sex. And he denied it and denied it and denied it. And one time I was on the phone with him when he was drunk. And he said, which I'll never forget because it's so ridiculous, well, she was going to have sex with somebody. Might as well be me.
That's the level of insanity. Are you kidding me? Through the evolution and part of my escape plan, I didn't tell him I was escaping. He went off to work one day, and my girlfriends from across the country had paid for a moving van, and we had about 25 people waiting in the court behind the house. And when he left for work, everybody swooped in and moved me out.
That's wonderful.
Before that, when I had left, there was a moment where I wanted the house. He had done all these things. And again, I knew the length and the longevity of which he had done it. He thought I was acting like this because of one affair, right? And so I was like, I get the house. Like, why don't you go over to your little Craigslist girl that, lives just around the corner and stay at her house?
Right.
And he refused to let us leave. And at that moment, even though the majority of the things in our home came from me, I was looking at my daughter who was panicked, and he was refusing to let us leave. And I thought, I am standing in this house because that blue chair is mine. And I want that blue chair because it's mine. Meanwhile, the house is burning down, but I'm still standing here in it because refusing to leave because I want that chair and he's not letting me leave. So I'm just going to argue with him over, no, I get these things. And I thought, why am I standing in the house burning down?
Mm-hmm.
If he's not letting me leave, I will slowly back out. And if he doesn't get out of the way, I will be going 2 miles an hour and I doubt I'll run him over.
Mm-hmm.
And if I happen to hit his car because he won't move it so I can leave, if I'm going 2 miles an hour and scrape down the side so that it moves over enough in the driveway, I'm going 2 miles an hour and I got my cell phone on video so that I'm capturing it. And then I left. It was 2 months of lies of him denying it before he finally admitted. But so the one instance when it was 8 years, right? So he admitted to the one instance when it was 8 years. But I came back to the house. This is what's so funny. And he said, you know what? I organized all the picture frames because I love, pictures and putting our family together and all of that. Blending a family is hard. And we were, I thought, good at it. And he had taken all the pictures out of the frames and stacked them all orderly, all the frames, but he had taken every family picture and tore it down the middle of my face. And when I said, you tore all our family pictures, and he said, oh, sweet pea, I knew it would make you sad to see our family pictures. And besides, we're going to create new family pictures because we're going to get through this and it's going to be fine. And I said, you tore them through my face. Saying, sweet pea, we're going to make new memories and get back together, completely ignoring that he dismantled me.
Just your talking, I totally forgot the part where I kicked him out and he refused to leave. I really had to fight for him to get out of my house.
When the person who was abusing me finally admitted it, he admitted to 3 affairs via Craigslist. 1 in the very beginning of our relationship, 1 in the middle of our relationship, and 1 just 3 months prior to I found out, which because I knew it wasn't the entirety of the relationship, I'm like, there he is. He's telling his own version of the truth and just bookending the entirety and leaving out the hundreds in between the beginning, the middle, and the end.
Do you think there's any part of him that wanted you to discover the truth?
That's a really good question. And I don't know the answer because I don't know who the man is.
Right.
I just know that he, for 7+ years, almost 8 years, had successfully fooled me by saying, I'm going to leave this computer open. Go ahead and check if you want. And I never did, because if he was going to leave the computer open and he thought I was going to check, then surely he was telling the truth because I could easily go check. But I never went and checked.
Yeah. Do you have any fear that he successfully did what he threatened to do in those messages?
There is a night or two, I don't remember, that I only found out because they were on his computer. I know on one of those instances, I was with him and his main male sex partner because I discovered it on his computer.
What did you discover on his computer?
The plans and the arrangements for us to be there. And then I went back and looked at Facebook, and sure enough, I had posted a picture of an event. I have zero memory of that event.
Oh.
I have zero memory that I was there. And it's not like I put on a good drunk and I don't remember getting ready for that event. I don't remember anything about the event. Oh. The event was significant, and I don't remember anything after the event. And when I questioned the people there, right, who didn't know that all this was going on, they all had a different story about what happened that night.
Oh.
So I don't know what happened that particular night. Now, my therapist, because I immediately went into therapy, and I want to give a shout out here to domestic violence shelters. The biggest source that Safe in Harm's Way, which is my organization, refers to is domesticshelters.org. Now, domesticshelters.org has this beautiful system where you plug in your zip code and up pops every single resource you could need in your zip code to get help. And the beauty of a shelter is you do not have to live there in order to take advantage of their services. So I was homeless. I mean, when I left, I didn't have a place to live.
Yeah.
I stayed with family occasionally. I stayed with friends occasionally. I got hotel rooms. I slept in my car a lot. I was very afraid that if he found me, he would kill me and everybody I was with.
Mm-hmm.
So because his behavior online was egregious, and if I'm the one who knows this, then I'm the target.
Mm-hmm.
The shelter was full. I took advantage of every service that they had. I took advantage of their free counseling, their legal advice. They will go to court to get a restraining order. The programs that every state, at least in the United States, I'm not quite sure what happens in Canada, but in the United States, every single state has a resource that you can subscribe to, and it removes your public information from anything searchable. So signed up for that. Those services were vital. And then I started going to therapy through my work. I started going to through their employee assistance program. And then I continued that therapy on an insurance-based and a sliding scale base with my therapist. And sometimes that meant 3 times a week because I was falling apart.
Oh, I imagine. Yeah.
I was falling apart. I didn't know who I could trust. I didn't know who was all in a secret world. I didn't know who all knew but didn't tell me. I didn't know any of that. I'm glad that you asked the question of, do I know what happened to me? I don't. I co-authored a book called #SheWins2 with 9 other women where we told our stories. And I chose what we're talking about is beautifully timed, Tara, because I have never talked about this openly, this as the main form of the abuse he issued against me, because it's disgusting. And people, because it is so ugly, will not believe it.
Yeah.
If I had started my story with this, people would have gone, no way. So the segment that I chose to author for that book, #SheWins2, is all related to this.
Oh, thanks for sharing it with me.
Because I know I'm not the only one. I know that there are people who carry shame because of what they discovered. This did not happen to me, but I've talked to so many people who it has happened to, that their partner, their abuser, will make them do sexual things and then hold it as blackmail against them.
Mm.
And so then consequently, they sure don't talk about that because they live in fear.
Right.
So my goal is, by being this bold in what happened to me, that anyone who hears my story will feel less alone and less shame, and stop thinking I'm the only one this has ever happened to you. I'm telling you, sisters and brothers, you are not. It happens commonly as a form of abuse. And I do count this not only as sexual abuse, but physical abuse, because when you are making choices, so I'm having unprotected, what I think is monogamous sex with a heterosexual.
Right.
Turns out I was wrong about it all.
Right.
That is a physical abuse on my body for him to bring home potentially the diseases from other people to me. And I'm none the wiser. It's that type of abuse on the power and control wheel is classified as both sexual abuse and physical abuse. And when I have talked about that, one-on-one with people, there's a little bit of a light bulb that goes off because they're like, holy cow, that happened to me my entire relationship. So the more we can talk about that, the more we can engage people with that, then I know for sure that folks will feel less alone in the world, less shame, and then they'll find the right resources to start talking about it, because I want to be an example. I am 5 years out. I'm still in therapy because I think it's a smart thing to do.
Right.
And I have no shame about it. And I'll probably be therapy for the rest of my life. And I think that's beautiful, because what it gets to mean is I am above the earth and not below it. And what it gets to be is I get to live this great life where I have had fabulous, incredible sexual relationships. I have met men who are amazing. No one's afraid of my story. The men are not backing off. They're not going, oh my God, you're damaged goods. They're like, oh, honey, like, you're a rock star.
Right. That's awesome.
You're doing this to help other people. This is amazing. So great sex, fabulous relationships, traveling across the country, creating friends in groups I never had before. Because when you decide to start speaking, it has to include therapy. It has to include community. And when you do that, the most beautiful things come into place. And that's what I want to be an example for. I want people to say, if she can rise up against it, I can try. And if she knows hundreds of other people who have risen up against it, I can try. You know, at Safe and Harm's Way, our tagline is always, join us, take our hand, and let's go change the world. And I had someone call me and say, you know what? I love that. I love it because you put it at the end of every post. You put it at the end of every content you create. And I hear your voice. That makes me hear your voice. And I feel less alone. That's kind of cool.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Join us, take our hand, and let's go change the world, because that is the way we change the world for people trying to survive this particular kind of abuse or any kind of abuse, is when we create community so people share their stories and folks find the help they need.
I love that you've gone to therapy and are going to therapy, and you're going to continue going to therapy. And I asked on Facebook, actually, maybe 2 days ago, have you ever seen a counselor or a coach or a therapist? Because I have somebody I talk to every week, and every single week, I think I have nothing to talk about, and I have a light bulb moment every single week.
Yes.
I love that you're promoting that it's lifelong, because yesterday I went tears streaming down my face, and beautiful moment that, freed me of something that I've been holding on to. So that's so beautiful. I'm so glad you're saying it and promoting it.
Therapy options are online. There's group coaching options that you can take advantage of at a reduced cost. Again, go to a domestic violence shelter and sit in on their free therapy. It's all there, but unless people start to talk about it, they're not even aware that those kinds of resources exist. Unless there's people like you and me, and I'm going to say right here, right now, we are fabulous. So unless fabulous people start raising their hands saying, I do therapy and I plan to do it for forever, there's still a shame around it.
For myself, I think you find a good therapist by trying them out and seeing if there's a connection between you two. But do you have a method? Is there a way that you find somebody that's good for you?
That is a question I wish a lot of folks would ask, because people need to realize, just as you go to a grocery store that you love to shop at and you don't go to another one because you don't like the way the aisles are set up. Mm-hmm. Same thing.
Right.
You might go to a therapist and you might not like the way their office is set up. You might not like the way they communicate, how that is set up. Go to another therapist. Keep going until you find one. If you go into therapy and you leave feeling worse than when you went in, and let me put an asterisk by that, not worse because, oh, wow, I have some things to deal with, but worse because that person made me feel horrible about myself and shamed me. That's not the right person for you. Find another one.
I had a counselor who used to say, it still makes me angry. He'd ask me something and I literally didn't know what he wanted or the answer. And he'd say, come on, you're smart. Then I'd feel even stupider because I don't know what you're asking. Could you help me out here? He made me feel really small.
Thank you for sharing that with me, because that's important for everybody to hear. You don't have to justify why you don't like a therapist. I'd like to address something that most survivors get, which is the question, why didn't you leave? Abuse does not start off as abuse.
Right.
Abuse starts off as love. And then it sneaks in, maybe a little bit at a time, maybe with a nasty comment here and there. I'll give you an example. We were in Vegas, very new in our relationship. And I came down, dressed to the nines. It's Vegas. And he said to me, you look like a slut. And I said, that really hurt my feelings. And he's like, oh my God, you can't take a joke? Come on. You can't take a joke? Hey, sisters and brothers, that is the first sign.
Right.
If you tell somebody that they hurt your feelings and then they turn around and blame it on you, That's not somebody that you want to be with. And people dismiss those first little tiny little things. Oh, well, he really was joking and I'm just getting to know him. And so maybe I did take it the wrong way. And so those little things start and they grow. And then there's an apology because guess what he did after that? You know what? We're going to be walking around. Let's go get you a new pair of boots. You need a new pair of boots. I'll buy them. So it starts off as a snarky comment. You say, hey, that hurt my feelings. The person responds, that's all you. You can't take the joke. Come on, what's wrong with you? And then turns around and buys you a love bomb. That's a cycle. And that tiny little cycle, which probably happened in the span of 30 minutes for me, would repeat itself and get longer and bigger and bolder over the next course of almost 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why people don't leave. They're always chasing the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
They're hoping that they're going to get back to the person they thought they knew. And they are also being told, this is all your fault. This is you. This is your problem. Then they're given a love bomb of, oh my gosh, you're the best thing. You're the best thing that's ever happened to me. I'm so sorry. I've just never been loved. My parents didn't love me and my sisters were mean to me. And my first wife, she was horrible. And what occurs during that cycle is the isolation. You don't want to go hang out with your family. I don't think they like me anyway. Just stay with me because I miss you when you're gone.
Mm.
Don't go hang out with your friends. Stay home. I miss you. I miss you so much when you're gone and we both travel. And before you know it, you're not seeing your family and you're losing your friends. And you can just rely on me, love. You don't need to worry about money. I'll take care of everything. And then you slowly lose your finances. And so by the time that abuse starts to get worse and worse and worse, you've been cut off from friends and family. You've lost your finances. You've started to believe that the problem is really you. And maybe you have a few kids tucked in there.
Right.
And let's call out the biggest thing. The most dangerous time for a person leaving a relationship when they are 75% more likely to be killed is in the first 3 months when they attempt to leave.
Mm.
And when you can layer in zero support, you have all these things that are working against you, it becomes easier to stay.
Yeah.
So that's where, for Safe in Harm's Way, that's where we play. We want to be able, if you are that person who's just starting to figure it out, but you can't yet leave, let's start to fuel your soul. Let's start to give you the resources on what you can do. Let's tell you where you can go to help. Let's talk about the ability that you can craft an escape plan before you ever have to implement it. That you can take your time to do these things. And then when the time is right, here is the list of things you should have in order before you go. Because we want people to do it on their own time frame in the most safe way and with the most resources and community that they know how to do it. There's a national registry for people who have harmed animals. There's not a national registry for people who have harmed humans.
My first husband was very verbally abusive about my weight. And this is something you didn't mention, but for me in public, he was a different person.
Oh, yeah.
And that was really frustrating that nobody knew the real him. Oh, he's such a nice guy. Why are you leaving? I remember even saying too, well, he's never hit me. I'm not really being abused.
Right.
Because he's only saying things to me.
Right. Yeah, I'm not being abused. I mean, he comes home and if I folded the towels wrong, he just throws them on the floor and makes me refold them. But I maybe should just learn to fold towels better.
Right, right.
No. How, For me, it's the realization that even if someone who claims to love you still hurts you, whether it's your family or a friend or the person that you have a relationship with, boundaries are beautiful and that you get to say, your behavior is not something I want to live with or I want to tolerate in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to distance myself from you. And you can do that slowly over time. A nice gradual exit. You can do it with friends. You can do it with family. You can do it with the people who claim to love you. I guarantee you, when you remove the people from your life that make you feel small and make you feel bad and make you feel sad, and you recognize those feelings in yourself, you don't have to justify them to yourself ever.
Mm-hmm.
I I just know that this is how it makes me feel. It might not make Hera feel this way. It might not make my neighbor feel this way, but this is how it makes me feel. I'm going to back away from this person. The best people take their place. All that nasty person is holding is the place that the beautiful person who should be in your life hasn't got time to step into yet.
Absolutely.
My nephew gave me the best definition of boundaries. He was 4 years old and he'd been outside playing and he had a dog push him down. Now the dog didn't bite him, but my nephew was, like 3 feet from the ground and the dog was taller than him, weighed about 120 pounds.
Yeah.
And the dog just wanted to play, pushed my nephew to the ground, got on top of him, scared the heck out of my nephew. So a week later, I'm standing with my nephew in my sister's kitchen and we're looking out the window and we're coloring. And he says, Aunt Carolyn, I love dogs. I'm so excited, right? Because I knew what had happened. And I'm like, oh, good. He's not going to be afraid of dogs. And he said, I really do. I love dogs. You know when I love dogs the most? And I said, when? He said, I love dogs the most only when they're through a window and very far away. You can love people
right
through a window and very far away.
Yeah.
You can love people 3 states away if that's the amount of space you want to put it through. You can love them through the orange barrier that's kind of woven and weaved with plastic that you can still see them and you're trying to decide, do I want to breach that plastic?
Mm-hmm.
You can love them through concrete barriers that it would take a team of 10 men and a forklift to move. You get to take the time and the decision to decide what boundary you want to love them through, implement it, and then allow the best person who should be in their place come into your life.
Right. 100%. I left the guy that was cheating on me in Craigslist and 8 months later met my husband, who is the nicest person I've ever met, who makes me feel so loved 7 years later.
Love it.
I'm so lucky that I said no so quickly and gave space for this beautiful thing to happen in my life.
You recognized it quickly. You did what you had to do, and the best person took their space.
Yeah.
You have to do the work. Like you said, you're going to therapy. You have to recognize quickly, and then you allow. You can't jump into the next relationship if you haven't done the work on yourself.
Right.
And you haven't started to recognize that. That makes me want to cheer for you. I would do a cartwheel if I was in like a bigger room.
I would do a cartwheel if I could do a cartwheel, but that is not a talent I ever possessed.
I can do a mean cartwheel.
Oh, you can?
I can nail a cartwheel.
Still?
I still work on it. I love doing cartwheels.
Oh my gosh.
I will do a cartwheel when I'm happy. I don't care where I'm at. I've done it in stores. I've done it on sidewalks, because when there is such joy in the world and I get to be above the earth and not below it, I'm going to do a cartwheel if I want. I'm going to dance if I want. Whatever I want to do to bring forth the joy and the laughter in life, I'm going to do, because I'm so lucky to be alive.
That makes me so happy. I would like you somehow to video yourself doing a cartwheel so I can always be happy.
Oh, I can get a kid to do it. They're full of embarrassment whenever it happens. But yeah, I can get them to do
totally
it.
down for that.
Take me doing one.
Yeah. That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your story and being vulnerable and being brave for other people. I appreciate that.
I appreciate you saying that. Thank you very much. I want people to know that, yes, life is amazing and I am living it. And it took years to get here.
Yeah.
And it's going to be an evolution of a lifetime of healing that I am so happy I get to do. And having that mindset versus, I'm going to have to do this for the rest of my life. Either way, your mindset determines how you react to it. It's a good life to be. And I am very fortunate. And it does come with having done a whole heck of a lot of work.
Yeah. I'm really glad that I get that. I might keep trying new things because every time I do something new also, I learn something different. And so it's beautiful that there's so many different teachers in the world.
Exactly.
Yeah. I really, really enjoyed this. And I'm surprised at how much I related and also how relatable you are, just how generous you are.
I never mind sharing my story because that's the part that I think resonates with people. That's where, I get the phone calls or I get the Facebook messages that says, my best friend sent me your podcast
Right.
and told me to listen to it. And that's all she said. And she said, holy cow, you've lived my life. And so again, we're back to suddenly somebody feeling less alone in the world. And that's what we want. No one to walk around in shame and silence.
Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you for asking me. I'm so glad we got to do it together.
Me too. Okay, I'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good.
Bye.
Bye.